Hello. Hi. Well, full of lots of gremlins today, aren't you, John?
Yeah, I'm not seeing myself. We've had some big problems with. We're in the room. Fantastic.
What
Had some huge problems with StreamYard this morning, and she's a new setting, which means our guests couldn't get on. So thanks for being patient and staying with us. I will have a great session today.
We do indeed. John, thanks very much for arranging this session with Jasbir. I'm really looking forward to this conversation we're going to have. We've got a great technical leader here with phenomenal background. But before we get into bringing Jasbir onto the call, John, what do we have lined up for next month?
Okay, so next month in April the 8th, we've got Bringing AI to the Masses, the Rising Importance of Edge Infrastructure. Speaker we've obtained through the Edge AI Hub, of which we're a member. So it should be a really interesting talk by Dr. Rana from Cardiff. And then in May, we've got one of our favorite subjects. We've got beer brewing at the Edge. So that's Tuesday, May the 6th. And so how we're going to control it with IoT. So hopefully as well, that should be a really interesting talk. Beyond that, we're always looking for speakers. So if you've got a talk idea you'd like to bring to over 10,000 IoT professionals, please get in contact.
And how do they get in contact, John?
With myself on LinkedIn or yourself. Or the website, the AIoTHub.
You can indeed email paul@aiothub.co.uk and we'll get back to you with some info and we'll get the talk arranged. And on that, we're going to bring in Jasbir. Jasbir, thanks very much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting me in this wonderful talk. I'm looking forward to having a good conversation today.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Jasbir, and really appreciate you staying up so late. It's almost midnight there in India, isn't it?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah. But I just wanted to know, IoT is a kind of a passion subject for me, so I can stay awake full night for this discussion.
I can understand it. So I've been leafing through some of your book, and the passion comes across there. A huge range of subjects. So hopefully that will come out tonight. This is a bit of a departure for us. We usually have a speaker who just presents like 50 minutes of talk, and then there's questions from the audience. But this is going to be a bit more conversational. So hopefully going to edge out some of your expertise in the area of IoT and understand some of the things that you've learned during your lifetime in IoT.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll definitely share my perspective. So I'll kind of bring to bear my kind of knowledge of almost a decade in IoT field. And especially, the last 2 years where I've worked on a book. Okay, so that also gave me a lot of perspective. So kind of, I was able to mix both theoretical as well as practical knowledge. And hopefully I would be able to kind of give right answers for your questions as well.
Okay, just got a small issue with the sound, Jasbir. You're a little faint. Is there anything you could do to improve that?
I can speak louder if that helps.
Okay, yes, that would help, yeah.
And is it audible now, or should I kind of remove these headphones and try with the speaker? That's the second thing I can try.
If you think it'll help, yeah.
Just give me 1 minute. Hello. Hello. Is it any better?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Oh, great.
So, Jasbir, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about your background and how you got into IoT.
Sure. So I have around 2.5 decades of IT experience. I started working in the IoT field roughly in 2013-14 timeframe, and I started as an embedded engineer. Then I also worked a couple of projects in the cloud, And then around 2013-14 timeframe, when this IoT thing was just coming up, I thought maybe I can kind of club both the things together, the cloud and my embedded knowledge, the device knowledge. And that's how I kind of got interested into IoT domain. I started working I worked on a couple of IoT projects in different domains, right? Industrial, consumer, home automation, pharma, manufacturing, agriculture, so on and so forth. So then, around 2 years back, a realization came to my mind that probably I can kind of condense this knowledge and experience that I'm having in IoT field in the form of book. That's how this book came into being. So I'll almost spend 1.5 years documenting my experience in this book form, and that's kind of it's a gist of what I've learned in the IoT field.
Cool. Yeah, I was an embedded engineer briefly before the IoT thing, and so everything had to then be connected. Before it was just on a chip somewhere and stood alone and performed its function. What sort of projects have you worked on in IoT? What sort of stands out as a big achievement in your career?
Yeah, I've worked on multiple, I think numerous IoT projects, but I'll just share some of the larger projects that I've worked on. So I worked on one of the projects which was about tracking and tracing of devices, be it IT hardware or non-IT hardware, by attaching RFID tags to it. Okay, so that was one of the, I think, biggest projects. And the beauty of that project was that that solution we could deploy across multiple domains. For example, we can use that solution to track IT assets in any kind of software organization. Let's say we can track the desktops, laptops, and so forth. The same solution, right, with a little bit of a customization, we could take it to entirely different domain. Okay, so I'll give you one example. For example, we were able to take it to aero domain, and there, the customer used it for tracking the MRO tools, right? The tools that are used for repairing a aircraft. Okay, so they were able to kind of leverage the same solution in multiple domains. So that was one project I did, and I started this such IoT journey with the home automation project, where it was kind of monitoring and controlling different ambient conditions in a home scenario. So now it might seems very obvious, but back in 2013-14, it was quite a new thing. Okay, so that was the home automation project I did, and also the third project I was involved is smart agriculture, where we were kind of monitoring the health of the crops in agriculture field and kind of giving suggestions and recommendations to farmers that when to irrigate, when not to irrigate, so on and so forth. So those are kind of a couple of projects which I've done across different domains.
Cool. So one of the key use cases that's emerging is the AI at the edge, or the as we call the AI IoT. What does AI mean to you?
So for me, right, AI is essentially, I'll say, bringing kind of augmented intelligence. Okay, so it's not that earlier solutions were not intelligent; they were also intelligent. But one new thing this kind of AI is bringing into the picture is kind of adding more predictability to the solution. For example, right, just to give you one perspective, that it's kind of a different from normal rule-based solutions where there's kind of a fixed pattern, right? So if this is the kind of a condition, this is the solution. Okay, so kind of if this and then that, type of a scenario. But once we bring AI into the picture, right, there's a lot of additional possibilities that emerge. Okay, so in AI, we don't give a specific answer, right? There's a range of possibilities there. Okay, and one thing one way of comparing this AI to non-AI system is that a non-AI system, as I said, is primarily rigid rule-based systems, and results are quite deterministic, right? But when we bring AI into the picture, it's more probabilistic in nature, okay? And there's a range of possibilities, a range of solutions that are possible. Okay, so that's my way of looking at it, and primarily I see that adding AI into IoT brings an element of more rigorous analytics into the picture, right? So the IoT is primarily for data collation, data collection, okay, from remote devices, remote geographical devices, so on and so forth. AI augments the analytics part of it, right? Because ultimately, why we are collecting data, right? We are collecting data so that we are able to make effective decisions, and AI helps in making more effective decisions.
Very interesting. Do you think the rise of AI has changed the IoT market? I mean, I'm seeing a lot more interest in AI now. Everything has to have the AI, but a lot of the technologies they've been around a while, like anomaly detection, image detection, regression analysis.
That's correct. So there's a lot of interest in AI field recently. Okay, and so from as I said, right, IoT is kind of a build we can consider it as a stack of layers. Okay, and AI sits kind of on top of that IoT stack where we do analytics. Okay, so there kind of AI brings element of kind of a decision making. Okay, more rigor to analytics. Okay, and probably some scenarios where the traditional analytics, right, rule-based solutions are not enough, right? So there we need to bring this. That's where AI plays a vital role. In fact, my book also covers, there's one specific chapter dedicated to this, that how these emerging technologies, right? For example, AI, maybe 5G, 6G, 3D printing, how these can be combined with IoT to develop and realize very innovative use cases.
Can I just lean in there and sort of extend on that question of we see reports, and God knows my question, I'm sure, because I asked this quite a lot of times, but we've had the podcasts about the industry and about IoT and the art of possible, and the likes of McKinsey and Gartner have predicted huge scales in the market, and yet we've got to quite reach that scale in regards to that investment, and we've got hopefully the new pull with artificial intelligence on that. Do you think there are any other inhibitors, or what do you think are the inhibitors where the true scale and opportunity has to be?
Definitely, right. So for example, I'll give you one example. Maybe it's kind of simple, but just to prove the point. So typically we capture, let's say, data of a person, okay, his vital parameters, heart rate, sugar level, so on and so forth, right? And then essentially the objective is to do analytics on top of that. That's where this AI brings kind of a new rigor to the analytics, whereby you can not only analyze the past history, but also predict the future kind of a health span or a lifespan of a person. Okay, so that those type of an innovative use cases or the cases where the traditional compute systems are not capable of providing those analytics, that's where this AI brings a lot of value.
And do you see those models being trained on the edge or just applied on the edge? You gave some examples in your book of one shot and few shot, which I thought would just be for training models.
Correct. So typically, since on the edge, we are always running low on compute and storage. So most of the training of model is done on cloud, okay? And then the developed models are deployed on the edge. That's how typically, this works.
Okay, so moving on to a lot of compute on the edge and cloud. So edge AI and cloud AI. Where do you draw the line between the two? When should we cite our AI at the edge, and when is it best suited in the cloud?
Yeah, although it's kind of nothing is fixed, it's more of I think subjective evaluation. But essentially, what we say that in case the analytics or AI is performed near to the place where the data is being collated by IoT system, okay, near to the device per se, that's typically considered as part of edge. Okay, whereas in case analytics or the decisions are made at a place which is quite distant from where the data is being collated. Okay, so that typically falls under the purview of cloud systems. And normally what we do, normally, the way it is handled is that most of the latency sensitive applications, they are handled on the edge. And wherever there's a need for a large amount of compute or storage, those type of use cases are typically handled on cloud.
Okay, cool. So we've got a rise of 5G at the moment, which is quite exciting because it enables high bandwidth connectivity, at least short to medium range if it's not raining, obviously. But in a factory, you could have a 5G base station providing the equivalent to a cable plugged into an IoT device. Do you think having 5G and now soon to be 6G in the picture enables new use cases? How does it change IoT?
Yeah, so the way 5G and 6G kind of helps IoT is that it helps in more bandwidth. Okay, the pipe per se, right? Pipe of data from edge devices to the cloud, that has become larger. Not only that, so even the data transfer rates have improved, and they've also become more deterministic. Okay, so we know for sure that in case data is leaving from edge, it will reach cloud in so and so time frame, right? So it's that wherever there's a need for more deterministic data transfer, the 5G and 6G would definitely help.
Thank you. Moving on to digital twins. You've highlighted this as one of the compelling use cases, but in my experience, they're quite difficult to set up. They're quite time intensive, creating all the drawings and then overlaying the data and allowing people to click into things. Where are the compelling use cases for digital twins in your experience?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of interesting use cases that we can develop using this digital twin. I'll just kind of give some examples from different domains just to give you a perspective on the possibilities that are there. So one for example possibility is that we can create a digital twin of a person, of human being, with respect to his health. But we can kind of keep on collating the vital parameters and then create a digital twin out of that. And that digital twin will not give us the historical picture, but it can also predict the future health condition of that person, okay, future lifespan or a health span. So those type of possibilities emerge if we bring a digital twin there. Because essentially what digital twin helps us is we can do a time travel, right? We can see what was the kind of a person's medical history in the past, what is it currently, and how it will look like going maybe 10 years down the line, so on and so forth. That's one use case which I can think digital twins can enable. Coming to the agriculture space, for example, right there, what we can do is we can compare the growth of the crops, okay, and see whether the crops are growing at a rate which they are expected to grow. Okay, so say again comparing the real scenario with the expected scenario. That's one possibility, and related to that, we can not only compare the predicted growth with actual growth. We can also compare, maybe the output of a different agriculture fields. Okay, if they are operating under similar conditions, what is the kind of expected output of those agriculture fields? So those are few, I think use cases which can be developed using digital twin. Another possibility is, for example, we can create a digital twin of assembly line, and we can keep on monitoring different parameters, which will kind of guide us on the possible reasons of failure. And the digital twin can keep on analyzing and automatically not only analyze the possibility of failure, but also take right remedial measures to fix that problem before it actually impacts the production.
That's great. Well, I look forward to Garmin creating a digital twin of me. I've got a fitness tracker that I sort of live and die by. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
Sure.
Where do you think we are with people's security concerns about IoT? People say, "Oh, you've got a new IoT device. Aren't you worried about a Russian hacker or whatever turning up your thermostat or whatever?" Do you think people's perception is changing? Are there privacy issues that still need to be taken care of?
Definitely, I think there's been a lot of progress in last couple of years with respect to IoT security. And one shift I'm seeing in the past few years that people are able to differentiate, at least the technical people are able to give the right amount of attention to IoT security. They are not just kind of a clubbing IoT security with normal, let's say, traditional security, web security, for example. Okay, and that focus is important. I'll just give you few points. Why IoT security needs kind of have a different, or separate focus than the traditional security. How IoT security is different from a traditional security. So one thing we would agree that that the devices on the edge, they are very low on compute. Okay, so they are not that much capable of running, let's say, heavy security algorithms for vulnerability detection, for example. That's kind of a one way. IoT security needs a kind of a separate focus. And in the book, right, I've covered a full chapter on this thing, that how IoT security needs to be managed, why we think that IoT security needs a separate focus. We can definitely leverage the learnings we have from the traditional security, okay, website security, traditional internet systems, but over and above, we need to have a specific focus on IoT security. Not only from the implementation standpoint, but also from an impact standpoint. Okay, so if we take a vulnerability in the traditional IT systems, the impact would be severe, but it would be more probably financial in nature. Okay, or it might kind of impact a person's reputation if the data is leaked. But in IoT security, since we are dealing with the real systems which are operating in physical world, it can have a direct impact, right? For example, it can help impact adversely impact a person's health. Okay, just consider a compromised pacemaker, for example. Okay, so here the impact is, I'll say, is much more than the traditional IoT security, IT security, and that's the reason we need to have a dedicated focus here.
Excellent, thanks for that. Now, in your experience, what are the main reasons for IoT projects failing or indeed succeeding? This is something that me and Paul have discussed on occasion before. You must have seen lots of this over your substantial career.
Yeah, I think not everything is rosy. So I've seen a lot of IoT projects failing also, and mainly when this kind of domain was maturing, and there are reasons for that. One reason is since it has kind of combination of both physical and virtual components. We have software components also. We have a real physical components also.
So that brings a lot of complexity into IoT project implementation. Since there's hardware involved, kind of we need to people are typically either focused on the software aspect or on the hardware aspect, but IoT kind of needs both the expertise. So for example, I'll give you one example. Since it involves hardware, deployment, hardware procurement, we need to have that, understanding. Kind of, we need to evaluate the vendors accordingly. Okay, whether a specific vendor would be able to provide us the required devices. Okay. Another aspect is that typically once a IoT project succeed, or the POC or POV succeeds, then there's a kind of hockey stick type of growth there. We need a huge amount of devices to be deployed. So I've seen that few vendors are able to provide maybe hundreds of devices, but when we ask them to, let's say, provide hundreds and thousands of devices, they are not able to scale to that level. So that's another aspect that we need to consider while doing this IoT implementation. Whether the vendors that we are onboarding, they are capable of providing a technical solution as per our specification, and also whether they are able to scale in case the projects succeed. So that's one aspect. And I'll also the non-functional requirements, they also become very important here. It's not that non-functional requirements are not important in traditional IT systems. They are important there also. But here, it requires all the more importance. For example, right, I'll just give you one example. In case, we are having a simple IoT system in agriculture domain, okay, and let's consider some slightly different example. Okay, let's say the home scenario, we have a water sprinkler, right? But it's not able to kind of immediately start. It's taking a delay. The water sprinkler is not able to start immediately once the fire is detected. Okay, we have all the more very large ramifications of that. So non-functional requirements, they require a specific attention during this IoT project life cycle. A related example comes to my mind. In fact, we had developed one solution for our customers. It was in condition monitoring space. There, we had provided whatever specification they had asked for. But somehow we were not able to give the actual device specifications. We had mentioned in the documentation, but probably the customer overlooked that. And another kind of a mistake that we made there, we were not able to seek early feedback on our solution. When I say early feedback, it's not only the software, but the hardware, actual device also. So we kind of keep on developing the solution, and when the solution was completely ready, the device was ready, we had kind of shown that device to the customer. The customer immediately becomes very angry. He becomes very furious, saying that no, this is not the size that I was expecting. It's way beyond my requirement. And he said that the whole solution is useless to me. So that's another kind of learning in IoT projects, right? And that not only we need to show the software part of it using demo and other things, we actually also need to give a perspective to the consumer or customer whether the field device is sufficient in meeting their functional and non-functional requirements. Hope I've answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you for those insights. That's great. I mean, we've had sort of similar experiences. Some of my projects are a founder who refuses to go live until the solution is absolutely perfect, which obviously it never is. And then when he does go live, it's not what the customer wanted in the end. So anyway. So you make the point, in your book and elsewhere that IoT analytics are different from normal analytics. Could you expand on that point a bit?
Yeah, so I'll say there are a couple of ways in which IoT analytics is different from traditional analytics. One is obviously the velocity and the volume of data that needs to be analyzed, which is way higher in IoT system. So that's one way, how this IoT analytics is different. And second, what we have realized that IoT system typically, deals with all type of data, be it structured, semi-structured, or unstructured data. Just to give you one example of this, let's consider, scenario where there's a condition monitoring of a machine and a person is noting down different, readings, or IoT system is kind of gathering that information. So there's a kind of a structured data since we are collating the actual ambient conditions there, temperature, humidity, so on and so forth. Then there's a kind of a semi-structured data also. Maybe the person, the operator is adding some notes there on the readings. The example of unstructured data would be, let's say, in case we are also sending some video feed there. So we need to analyze all these three modalities. So that becomes kind of a bit of a challenge. Again, I think in the book, I've covered this topic in detail. Here, I'm just sharing the high level, information how that IoT analytics is different than the normal analytics.
Excellent. One question I had is every time you buy a new IoT system, you seem to get a device gateway. So this is a pattern that is you've highlighted in your book. Do you think we have too many device gateways? Is there some room in the market to consolidate that? So a single standard of interface to a single gateway rather than having to buy a new one for each application?
Yeah, I think the consolidation is happening, but I'll say still we are far away from having a single standard, okay, or agreed standard among all the device gateways. And I believe it will take some time before it get actual consolidation and all the vendors agree for a uniform specification. We are a few years away from that. So hopefully, maybe in 2-3 years time frame, we should be able to see a single specification and consolidation in the market. The way we have seen, let's say in the case of mobile devices also, right? Earlier there was a lot of vendors, lot of models, but now few vendors remain. So we are still in that journey where kind of things are getting consolidated.
Mm-hmm. And the big shiny on the block at the moment is large language models, that part of AI that really has changed and turned things upside down in the last year. How do you see those being applied to Internet of Things?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest on large language models, specifically in the use cases where we need to kind of communicate via voice. Let's say we are giving instructions via voice, and the IoT system is also responding in kind. It's also responding via natural language interface. So those are a few use cases that comes to my mind about how large language models can be applied with IoT. Okay, again, maybe I'm repeating myself. So there's one specific chapter which kind of details that how IoT can be combined with different technologies, be it LLM, okay, Gen AI, 3G, 4G, Metaverse, and how we can kind of combine more innovative and interesting use cases.
Great, interesting. So you also got very small sections on Web3 and quantum computing. I struggle to see the link there. If you could just expand on that a little bit.
That's correct, right? So quantum computing, what quantum computing brings to the table is a very huge, compute powers. So we talked about this IoT security aspect of it. Okay, so there's a possibility that the vulnerabilities might not be detected by the current systems, right? But when we bring quantum systems into the mix, they can kind of analyze the huge amount of data, okay, and they can be a very robust in detecting the vulnerabilities, for example. So that's just one example which I think quantum computing can help in IoT domain.
Great, thanks for that. So the question we've had is, how important it is, do you think you have to take into account hardware security? So protecting the chips themselves, so you can't extract the code off there and reverse engineer the device. How important is that?
No, definitely that's important, because and that's kind of another additional challenge that we have in IoT security, that the field devices are spread across geographies, okay, sometimes even deployed in remote locations where there's very less physical security, okay, so that the vulnerability is much higher, so anyone can probably go and steal that device. But in case of IT systems, that's not a possibility. No one can kind of take that device, because there's a kind of a physical security there. That's there. I think having tamper-proof systems, or at least the tamper detection systems, that can help us in kind of getting alerted on a timely basis if any physical device has been compromised.
Interesting. Thanks for that. And so we're on to our quick fire round. What is your favorite development board and why?
So Raspberry Pi has been my kind of a favorite, because it's kind of a one is that this was the first board I was able to use, and this kind of affinity, and it's kind of serving me well. And related to that, right, I'll also like to recommend one website, that is adafruit.com. Probably you can put it in
Adafruit.com. Yeah, I've been to that. Yeah.
So that provides a very good kind of device, DIY type of devices, both for IoT domain as well as for the wearable thing. So I definitely request, I'll kind of suggest people watching this session to go through that website. A lot of interesting devices are there. So in addition to Raspberry Pi, I also try a lot of devices that are mentioned there, and they keep on kind of refining their offering.
Yeah, I mean, do you have Raspberry Pi in production? Is that something you put in a factory, or what else would you be using?
So both, for experimental purposes, although for a factory, we do have a productionized version, which is kind of having proper enclosure, which is fitting the factory requirements. So typically we do development in normal Raspberry Pi, but for the production we have kind of production ready gateways.
Cool. Next question. What is your favorite IoT conference and why?
So, as I said, right, I'm passionate about IoT, so all conferences are of interest to me. Nothing I'll say specific in nature, but even I attend conferences in India also, I attend abroad also. So all of them are in good learning opportunities where we can kind of exchange our ideas, get to know what is happening latest in the IoT field. So I won't say pick any specific event or a conference, but I'll suggest to the audience that wherever they get a chance, they should go and attend those events.
Thanks. How can people connect with you?
So feel free to connect me over LinkedIn, and that's my virtual home. Probably you can share the link also. That's Jasbir Singh Dhaliwal, LinkedIn, right? So feel free to message me. I would be more than willing to answer that. And I'm always available there to discuss anything interesting about IoT. Even the ideation part of it, in case someone has a very interesting idea, I can share my perspective on that, about the feasibility and how to bring that idea to life. I can also probably guide whosoever is interested in the implementation part of it as well.
Okay, and how can listeners be useful to you?
Yeah, so as I said, right, discussing an IoT idea, IoT implementation. Okay, if they have any interesting idea, I can kind of share my perspective also on that, and probably they can also go through my book also, share their perspective, and give the feedback. those feedbacks would be incorporated in the subsequent revisions that are in works.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Jasbir. That's all the questions we had. I really appreciate you staying up so late for us, and I hope our audience appreciated you coming here and sharing your knowledge with us.
It's my pleasure. It's wonderful talking to you both, Paul and John.
You too. Our next event is April the 8th. John, you'll be on a nice little holiday. I will be taking lead, returning. So thanks very much for joining us all. And when I find the outro video, I will say...
No, I can never find the button, Paul. This is why I need you.